Welcome back to Path to Glory, the Warhammer Underworlds podcast that focuses on competitive gaming, player development, and community growth. This episode was made possible by our patrons. Thanks to everyone who supports us. If you are interested in supporting the podcast monetarily, please check us out at patreon.com/Path to Glory. If that's not possible, we still appreciate the listens and the ratings. This is Aman Khusro, and as always, I am joined by my crustaceous co-host, Jonathan Davis.
Hello, hello.
As you can notice, and listeners as well, from the sound quality, and if you're watching the video, I am not at my usual computer today, so no fancy mic, no fancy, um, I guess camcorder,
Yeah,
video, whatever it's called.
back to basics.
Yeah, so I apologize for that in advance, but the show must go on. So, yeah, how's it going, man? Ten war bands later and no far list. How's your day going?
I know, right? We're finally at the end of the. We have all the cards. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
500 out of 500.
500 out of 500, exactly. Yeah. So
It's exciting.
it is. It's exciting. It's like normally this would be in May, right?
Yeah,
Or April.
yeah,
The last two war bands usually drop in April, end of April.
yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always around my birthday. But the thing is like it's just been a punishing release schedule. At least for like
Yeah.
content creators, it's been tough.
I would think for players too, because you really don't have a lot of time to um, figure out what to put in a deck, and then more cards come out, and then a new warband is out, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't usually play more than 3 games a week, maybe, and I haven't even been doing that recently. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It's I guess sometimes I would do more than three, but I would say that's a good average, and I would say that's at least how many games I need before I really am sure what a deck is even doing. So
It
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I don't think I've played. I mean, I've played games with Crimson Court. I haven't
Yeah.
played a single game with Mad Mob after their release. Like it's just official release. Like nope, hasn't happened. I've played against Reapers.
Yep, I've played them a couple
Actually,
times.
yeah, actually, I played with them a couple times. Now that I think about it. And then of course haven't tried the Soulraid yet, but
Hmm.
we can cut us some slack. They just came out, so not too
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Well, good. I just had some ramen, so
Mm.
feeling kind of full. Got some Thai tea here, ready to go. So let's jump into this universal review. Actually, I think we got
Absolutely.
a new patron. You want to shout him out real quick?
Yeah, we did have a new patron, Jace, who I remember talking to like over a year ago on the Reddit Discord for Underworlds, I think. So glad to have you here with us, and welcome back.
Yes, welcome back indeed. He made like a funny joke. He was like, I went back to your Discord and I was like, why is it? He was like, why is it so empty? And it's like, yeah, we just put everything behind. It's just Patreon exclusive. Like there's a general chat, and if you talk to us, we'll talk back. But
Yeah,
yeah, mostly everything
there's
is
some conversation that happens in there too.
yeah,
We
mostly
kind of
everything's
simplified
Patreon.
it quite a bit from where it was in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, well, let's get through these cards, and then we've got a bunch of patron questions as well.
Hmm.
So, Jonathan, I think actually, you know what? I'll go first, and
Okay.
I'll ask you for your opinions on these objective cards.
I'm
So, I
ready.
guess we'll go ahead and start with nope, those are the Deepkin ones. There we go. I guess we'll start with unassailable primacy.
All right.
So this is a two glory duel. Score this in the end phase if you had the primacy token in the previous end phase, and you have the primacy token.
Yeah, this is kind of like dug in.
It is
but
kind of, isn't it?
it but it's for privacy. Um, I suspect that this isn't worth building around, but mainly just because you can't score it in the first round, and then if you don't get primacy in the second round, you can't score it at all.
Hmm.
Similar to dug in, I guess. But maybe it could work in some warbands.
I think so. I think there's a lot of war bands that get primacy very quickly and often,
Yeah,
but I do think there are tricks nowadays to compete with the primacy token. Primarily, Proud Runner, I think, is a big one,
yeah,
and I think there's a Gambit as well that can mess around with that stuff. So, it's something that I think people will try, but unless we see some sort of balance update, I think it's pretty difficult.
yeah. And I mean, we talk about sometimes how a one glory card isn't worth taking uh, if it's not good enough, and we have so many two glory cards now that I almost feel the same way about some of these. So, but yeah, it's an interesting concept. I like that it's sort of
Yeah.
the aggro version of Duggan.
I mean, I like it, and I think it can be scoreable. I
Yeah.
just think it can get hard countered pretty quickly, especially if the war bands that you're hoping to feast upon, if you will all be taking Proud Runner. So,
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes sense.
okay, well, let's go to the next one. Silver Lining is a surge. Score this immediately after an activation. If you have four or more upgrade cards in your hand, you must reveal the power cards in your hand to your opponent when you do so for one glory.
Yeah. Um, I like this one for a very specific kind of deck, which is a deck that draws a lot of cards. Um, if you're drawing a lot of cards, you're not that unlikely to get four upgrades. I see it almost like a frantic exchange.
Yeah,
Um, so I think maybe that's the only kind of deck you'd see it in. Um, but
I
I think
think
I think it
so.
works. I think it works for that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a meme card also. Because like you draw your opening hand, you have four objectives, and you're like, damn, gotta throw the hand
Yeah.
away. But maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
that's true.
I
And
think
this
it's really
after an
good.
activation too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I really like the fact that like you can build like an avatar of the Urgrub deck, or maybe you're relying on a bunch of silent relics or mortis relics, and so you
Yeah.
can't throw away your hand.
Right.
So this is a way to get some passive glory if you do so.
Yeah, you do have to show the opponent what your cards are though, so that's interesting.
Yeah, but I guess in most cases, if you're playing Avatar, you have ways to make that fighter pretty much unkillable
Yeah.
in most circumstances.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, speaking of upgrades, let's jump to Silent Sentinel. Score this in the end phase if one or more friendly fighters each have two or more silent relics for one glory.
Yeah. This one's surprising to me because this is I guess the only objective card we've seen that rewards you for having silent relics, and I guess because we're at the end of the set, it's the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to Avatar or Tomes or anything like that we've seen previously, it's not really anywhere as good. But it is easier because you only need two of them. Um, but I don't think you take this one unless you want three or four silent relics anyway, and then maybe it's an option.
For me, um, I just don't see you taking this. I don't think silent
Yeah,
relics are something that you build upon. Like if you're playing Drapors, like you take the helm.
sure. Yeah.
But like I don't ever see really a deck where you're taking, more than two, and then to rely a card to have two cards that have to be equipped on a single fighter seems a little difficult for one glory and a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. If it was
Okay,
two,
well
like
let's
maybe it would be worth considering,
yeah.
but
But then it would be too good, right?
probably.
That's always the conundrum with
We
those
need a
kind of
one and a
cards.
half
So
glory card. That's what we need.
That's right. You get half a token, I get the other half. Um, okay, well let's look at prize beyond measure. It's a one glory surge. Score this immediately after an activation. If one or more surviving friendly fighters hold an objective and each have three or more upgrades.
Yeah, I like this one okay for the smaller warbands that have a leader centric upgrade stacking play style, and it's not that hard to have one person holding an objective. Um, Interestingly, if you have two fighters on objectives, they both have to have three upgrades. With the way that's worded, so
Right, but
you.
if you just have well, actually, I'm not really sure. So I was actually reading something earlier today between some people, and they were saying like this card needs an FAQ because technically it says one or more surviving friendly fighters,
Mm-hmm.
but then it says each. I don't know. They were saying that it's pretty much show of force if you hold an objective, and it can be scored easier one way or the other. I don't. I'm not. Maybe I'm not doing the conversation justice, but I guess what he was getting at was it's easier to score than it should be.
Hmm. I mean, the way I read it, it says one or more surviving friendly fighters are holding an objective. So if that number is one, then and each have three objectives. So if it's one, then it has to have three upgrades. If it's two, then each of those two have to have three upgrades. So I think it works as far as like rules is written like in the English language, but
Yeah.
I don't know if there is another intention, then maybe we'll get an FAQ someday.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not. Maybe that's funny. Yeah, maybe there was. I don't know. I don't think I was convinced, but I was just reading the conversation. So
yeah,
I think if I treat this card as whoever's holding objective must have three or more upgrades,
yeah,
then that's fine because you can just make one fighter hold an objective and have three or more upgrades. Um, and obviously you probably want to use this in elite war bands like Crushes or
yeah.
maybe even a four fighter war band. Um,
Yeah, I like that it doesn't stack with hidden purpose and things like that. So it's interesting. It's a little slow because you need those upgrades, but
well, it could score. It could stack with hidden purpose though.
it could if you score this one first. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Not at the same time. That's right. Yeah.
yeah. You'd have to get this one first. It would have to be your only objective. Then you'd have to hold the second one later for hidden purpose. But
Yeah. Or you have two fighters with legit three or more upgrades, and then you get
sure,
hidden purpose and prize beyond measure.
yeah, that'd be fine.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's go to the next one. Primal Escalation, a duel for one glory. Score this in the end phase if one or more surviving friendly fighters each have three or more upgrades, and you have the primacy token.
Yeah, this is just a more difficult version of cards we already have. Because the three upgrades is an okay card, and then you also have to have primacy. So
Well, I think you could maybe like build like a passive primacy deck, which just involves like
maybe,
scoring a bunch of cheap glory off having fighters with three or more upgrades, maybe.
maybe, yeah, just a little
Yeah,
slow. Yeah,
just a little slow. Okay, well, nearing Hunt's End is the next card. Score this in the end phase if two or more friendly hunters and at least one enemy quarry are in the same territory, or one or more enemy fighters each have three or more wound counters.
yeah. Um, I think this one's all right. I like the. I think if you're playing a hunter warband, I think it's sort of doable. I think that there's a fair amount of quarry stuff in the game right now, so I don't think that's that hard of a condition. I guess in the same territory could be a little limiting, but for one glory, I think it's an option to think about. But I would imagine that you'll have a lot of other things to take.
Yeah, it's just one glory.
Yeah.
Let's go to an edible prize. It's a hybrid. Score this in the end phase if one or more enemy fighters with one or more hunger counters hold an objective, or one or more enemy fighters who each have two or more upgrades are out of action.
So the second condition is not that bad. Um, but it's one glory, and even for vampires who can do the other one, I just don't know if they need it. But for vampires, I think this is an okay card. This should be
Yeah,
reasonably scoreable.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think so. Um,
I might like it for vampires. I think I like it. Hold one
yeah,
objective, basically. Like,
yeah. Hold one for one glory. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. And then like once a fighter dies, like or two fighters die or something like that, like you should probably be able to score it
just get it
off
for
that too.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah. It
So
seems pretty reliable to them, kind of like Master of Battle was back in the day, where it's like you can always get it if you need to.
yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Or not Master of Battle, Master of War.
Oh yeah, that was a
Master of
nice one.
War. Yeah. Okay. Well, next card, Hunger for Supremacy. It's a
Hmm.
duel for one glory. Score this in the end phase if two or more friendly fighters hold objectives, and each of those fighters has one or more hunger counters.
Yeah, so I definitely prefer the previous one, which is only one objective. This is two, and it's for the same reward. But
I just
uh,
I just feel like there's a passive vampire build coming, man, with hunger.
maybe, yeah, yeah. But I think they're gonna have better options for having like 5 and 10 hunger counters, things like that. You
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It remains to be
know.
seen, but it seems pretty ominous. I know a
Yeah,
certain patron that goes by the name of Captain Murder might be looking forward to that one.
yeah, maybe.
Next one is, pardon me?
I said, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Everything to Prove is the next one. It's a Surge hybrid for one glory. Score this immediately after an activation if an opponent has the primacy token, or there is one or more surviving friendly quarry and you have the primacy token.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. I know there has been some conversation about like how this works because we technically don't know when the primacy token is actually given to someone. I'm operating under the assumption that you gain the primacy token sometime before you score the objectives, because that's really the only way I think that could make sense.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if it's before the inspire or before reactions or anything like that, but as long as it's before objectives, which I would almost bet money that it is, basically you just score this if your opponent has primacy. So um, I think that makes it very good. It's almost like martyred. And
Yeah.
then if you have quarries, which a lot of people do, then all you have to do is get the primacy token, and that's pretty good too. If you're playing a warband that has quarries built in, like Lanesh or the lizards, then you just anybody gets primacy and you'll score
Yeah. A lot of people are making this like as a reference to the new Martyred
it.
because you lose a fighter, they get primacy, boom, you get a glory. So
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah,
Which I don't
it's
really mind. I mean, primacy is really good. So
yeah, and I don't mind it also because it's balanced, right? It's not like oh, I can run through a lethal and get a glory. No.
yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a, and I think it's pretty good for everybody. So I think we're going to see a lot of it.
Yeah, I think so. Next card is Avatar. Last card is Avatar Famine for two glory. Score this in the end phase if one or more friendly fighters each have five or more hunger counters.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So it's a card for the Crimson Court if they want it. um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I like it. I think I like it more than the 10 hunger counters
Yes.
conditioned, and it is also. Oh, no, it's one or more. Yeah. So you do still have to take cards that give you hunger, and I think that's sort of the determining factor there. I don't know if that's always the right build for them, but if you are taking a lot of hunger stuff, then I think this is pretty doable, and you don't really have to go full defensive hunger build and try to get 10.
Yeah. I like this one a lot for the Crimson Court.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay, well, those are the upgrades. The final 10 upgrades of the
Objectives, yeah.
season. Sorry, yeah, I always say upgrades. I
Yeah,
listen
me
to like
too.
a couple of old episodes and I'm like, why am I saying upgrades here? But yes, the final 10 objectives from the Dire Chasm season set. I don't know if we'll get, you know, a Power Unbound or Arena Mortis
Yeah,
over the
some
next
news like
couple
that.
weeks or months, but at
Yeah.
least within Dire Chasm, this is it. Which one's your favorite?
Maybe another leaders pack. Um,
That would be fun actually. A Leaders Pack 2.0.
yeah.
I would like that
Um,
actually.
hmm. Which one is my favorite? I mean, I guess everything to prove is the obvious choice here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the one that we're going to see a lot of. I think a couple of the other ones might be worth considering.
Yeah, I like Prize Beyond Measure.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty doable. And then I really want to try Unassailable Primacy. It'll probably just not work out, but I want it to.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, overall, I think the objectives are a pretty mixed bag, but I think there are some solid cards in here that can help um, some control or passive strategies. And then there's like the new Martyred, of course. So,
Yeah,
cool.
makes
And I
sense.
guess if you want to build a Silent Relic deck, you can squirrel glory off it.
Yeah, very interesting. Um, I guess we can jump into the gambits.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first one is Wedded Hunger. Reaction. Play this after a fighter is taken out of action by damage dealt by a lethal hex. Pick a feature token and flip that token. If a fighter is in that hex, deal 1 damage to that fighter. What do you think?
So this is a really interesting card because it says a fighter. So in theory,
Mm,
you can kill one of your own fighters
mm,
and then flip an enemy token or flip a token that an enemy is holding. Um, Furthermore, if one of your fighters is killed by an enemy through a lethal or vice versa, I mean, there's just some shenanigans that can be used to react. Um, Ultimately, I'm not really sure if this is going to be used outside of maybe Feed the Beastgrave. I think if you're playing a deck that maybe wants to score Unexpected Pitfall and also deny opponents' objective scorings, and then also
yeah.
deal ping damage, then this could also be a pretty nice card. Like I could see this with Skaiths or Forest Riders. So
Mm.
I'm actually not. I don't think it's a bad card. I actually think it's a niche card, but when it works, it'll work real nice for sure.
Yeah. I think the problem with using it offensively is that it can be hard to get the kill with a lethal hex. So, yeah. And there's just so
Well,
many ways to flip now. I don't know if the flip decks need this. So,
yeah, I think it's more of like I'm flipping it, but I'm also pinging the fighter. You
yeah.
know, so you can
Yeah,
like
that makes
lethal
sense.
ward and then distract someone else into a lethal, or
Hmm.
kill, or like maybe you can lethal ward and then charge somebody, kill them by pushing them into a lethal, and then finish off the fighter you lethal warded or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be interesting. Just a little complex.
It is.
The next one is Soul Jaws. It is a trap. It is a reaction. Play this after an enemy fighter's move action. Roll 1 magic dice. On a roll of channel, that fighter is uninspired and cannot be inspired. This effect persists until the end of the round or until that fighter is taken out of action. When this effect ends, the chosen fighter is inspired. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure how I feel about this one. Um, I think, someone moves, you have a 33.3% chance to uninspire them, and then they can't inspire for the round.
Well, I think it's a
I
50% chance.
channel is half, yeah. So 50%
Yeah.
chance. Um, and then they're not they're uninspired for the round, and then or they cannot be inspired. So you could use this on an uninspired fighter. But then the problem is that after the effect ends, which is at the end of the round, or if that fighter is taken out of action, then the chosen fighter is inspired. So I guess if you're like playing this against Mollog, it can be pretty dirty. Or like if you know that you know you don't want the opposing, I don't know, Magor to inspire this round, then sure you can proactively play it. It's a really niche card and it's only a 50-50, so I think it significantly reduces its value because it's not consistent enough. So I'm not really sure I like this card very much, but I think it could, again, it's niche. Like when it works, I think it could be annoying.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit meta dependent. Um, I think you could take a deck with a number of these effects, and maybe rebound, maybe this, and that would end up being pretty annoying. But it would depend on the warband because there's some warbands that don't really, they'll inspire later, or they don't need all their fighters to be inspired, something like that. So
Hmm.
um, I probably like it better than the any of the other ways we've seen this season to uninspire, and I do think
Yeah.
that's an interesting effect. Um, I just don't know if it has enough power to make the slot in the gambits.
Hmm.
The next one is Silence Descends. Give one move token to each fighter in no one's territory.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for reading it. It it's okay.
Yeah.
It it I think it can be situationally pretty powerful if you're able to push the opposing fighter into no one's territory, or maybe if they're trying to synergize off silent relics. Great, but I'm not really a big fan of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just a little bit too situational. Um, but I don't know. When it works, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So,
like a lot of these cards. Like when it works, it's great. Like the last three cards, including this one, have been. I'm not
yeah.
really sure how I feel about it, but in a niche situation, if it works, I think it'll be really good. It's like I guess
Yeah.
it's a good design and good cards, right? They make you think, but they're
Hmm.
also like not obviously like if on a rating scale, they'll always be scored low, which is the
Right.
problem. But like
Yeah.
like I can see this in a top tier deck, any one of the three, because when they go off, they go off. Um, but let's go to puffed
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
Friendly fighters have +1 wounds if you have the primacy token. If a friendly fighter's attack action fails, discard the primacy token. This effect persists until the end of the phase.
Yeah. Hmm. So if you have the um, I don't know. That's interesting. Um, I'm not sure who I would want to play this with. Would it be the smaller warbands that already have a lot of health, or the little ones that don't? I guess I don't know. That's interesting.
I just totally realized that I read the card when I wasn't supposed to, but
Oh, that's fine.
this is yeah. Um, I don't know. I'm just a little off today. Um, it's the ramen friendly fighters. You know what? This is a really interesting card because like
Yeah.
a lot of the smaller warbands like rely on like a proud runner or something, or like a last minute push to get a kill maybe to get primacy.
Hmm.
Um, I guess you could like feign strength and puffed up and then score underdog.
Yeah. I think that's the
Um,
kind of deck that would want this.
yeah, I'm just not sure. Like I think this is really like this on crushes would upset me. Because it'd be
This
like
is also
six
the kind
wounds.
of card that I feel like an Eyes of the Nine player would play, and it would just be annoying. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Or an Elathain Soulraid player.
maybe, maybe.
So I don't know. I feel like again like this is like a very hard card to rate, and so you rate it
Yeah.
low. But like if your opponent plays puffed up, you're gonna just be like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even on like the four health war bands, that's really annoying.
It's very good.
You charge him with like Mogor or something, you get the primacy token, and then everybody's 5 health.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
But like the
This is one
question
that
is, do you?
I just don't know how to rate it accurately.
Yeah, and like the question is like, do you do this and then defensively get the +1 wounds, or do you just keep making attack actions? Like, like I can see you like third activation, you know, get the kill puffed up so you protect the charged fighters, and then maybe your last one. I mean, there's just so many applications here. It's real nuanced, actually.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. The next one is more muscle. The player who has the most surviving friendly fighters adjacent to enemy fighters gains the primacy token. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this is another way in which, like larger warbands can manipulate the primacy token. Um, I'm not gonna say this is bad because I think in some cases it can be really good, especially when you want warbands to score off like having fighters that are supporting.
Hmm.
Like one card I think we've seen a lot is the card where score this after an activation, which you have two friendly fighters next to one enemy fighter. It's the one with like Miari is surrounded by like two Harrow fighters.
Yeah.
Forget the name of it, but I've been seeing that a lot, and I feel like if that becomes popular, whether it's Gits, Seraphon, or Reapers, then Proud Runner plus more muscle means that you can probably get the primacy token often.
Yeah. I think that's true. I wonder if that makes Puffed Up good for them.
I mean,
Puffed
I
Up on
think it. I
Gits
think it
or the Reapers seems really annoying.
puffed up on
Um,
Gits is insane because you have
yeah.
like 3 and 4 wound
Yeah.
fighters running around the board. So
Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah, I'll have to try some of this primacy stuff. I haven't played too much with the cards that give it to you. I've usually just relied on the kills or ignored it.
yeah.
So um, that's it's possible that there's something to it now that we have so many ways to do that. I think you could take 3 or 4 cards now that will give you the primacy token.
Yeah, and this makes Surge of Aggression even more insane than it already is, right? So,
That's true. Yeah, it makes it a lot better. Yeah. The next one is Life Blood Draught reaction. Play this after a friendly fighter's attack action that took an adjacent enemy fighter out of action. Heal 1 that fighter or heal 2 that fighter if that fighter's target was a leader and or a wizard.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's another heal.
It's another heal. It's actually a pretty good one, um, for like more aggressive leaders like Malog, who kills someone and then heals too.
I think he has to kill a leader.
Sure, sure. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah.
still good,
Mm, I
but
don't
yeah,
like
I
it.
guess I guess that's fair. You don't like it?
I don't like it because I don't think healing 1 is worth a card, and I think that the condition to heal 2 is too difficult because you have to kill
Mm.
a leader or a wizard, and I just don't think that's common enough.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe. Yeah, maybe I was misreading it.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, it's okay, but like
Yeah.
it's just another heal. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny at this point.
The next one is Hunter's Helper. Reaction. Play this after a friendly Hunter's attack action. If there are 1 or more enemy fighters adjacent to that fighter, other than the target of that attack action, choose one of those enemy fighters and deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. So you can't damage the one that you're hitting. You have to damage somebody else.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. First of all, I have to say I love this card art. Not only did Noam shoot a skink in the chest, he also then drew another arrow and stabbed another one in the throat. If that's not some G stuff, John Wick type Bone Reaper action, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
It's like Legolas. Yeah, it is an interesting card. I think it's a very unique card, right? So, um,
It's
I
interesting.
don't know. Yeah, it's that's really
If
the best way to describe it.
if you think about it as a ping damage card, and not like a snare, then it's basically free damage if you have an adjacent enemy fighter. Like you'll just do one damage to the person next to you, but you have to attack somebody else. So for a ranged fighter like Noam, or maybe the Castigators or something, um, where you can charge one person and then ping somebody else. I don't know if it's awful, but I mean, it's not as good as Lethal Ward. So,
Well, I feel like it's good for scything attacks.
oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Like you can charge in with the harvester maybe,
Mm-hmm.
do two damage, do two damage,
Ping back one.
ping the other one, like it could so it
Yeah,
finish one of them off, I don't know, could be
that's
interesting.
true. Yeah, that's true. The next one is Hunger Pangs. Choose one enemy fighter with one or more move and or charge tokens. If the chosen fighter has one or more hunger counters, deal one damage to that fighter and remove that fighter's hunger counters. Otherwise, give the chosen fighter one hunger counter. This is the anti-vampire card.
Well, is it though? Because like
I,
choose
I guess.
one.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it will
yeah. It
help
says
inspire him.
yeah. If the chosen fighter has yeah, so deal damage to them or give them a hunger, which you're never gonna want to give them more hunger unless they're inspired or and they have two
Yeah.
hunger counters. Then this like uninspires them, which could be pretty neat in some situations. But ultimately, hunger is so hard. It's so hard to see if your opponent will be playing hunger unless you're like playing into a like a tournament full of Crimson Court players. So it's just
Yeah.
not.
And
It's not.
like,
It's not good.
if there was some kind of hunger build that was centered around applying hunger to the enemy, this might be a good card because it's ping damage and it's a way to do that. But you'd need like two or three other cards that were as good as this one,
Hmm.
that are also trying to do that. And I don't think those exist. Although one of the things we probably do need to do, and everybody should probably do now that we have the full set, is look at these hunger cards and see if there's anything there. But I'm not sure if there is.
Yeah, we got to do a hunger episode
Yeah, yeah,
for
maybe.
sure.
Yeah. The next one is Endurance Hunter. Choose one friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter one hex towards the closest enemy fighter, or up to two hexes towards the closest enemy fighter if that enemy fighter is a quarry. So kind of like the Heated Instinct one we've seen before.
Yeah, it's exactly the like the inverse of it,
Yeah.
in a way. I kind of like this. Like if you're playing an aggressive warband, most of
Yeah.
the time I think sidesteps are going to be just so that you can get into charge range, and then on the off chance that it works out and you can get like two sidesteps in.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this replaces sidestep, but in some builds I think it could for sure.
Yeah. I agree. The last one is Desperate Caution. Choose one friendly fighter. Give that fighter one guard token. If that fighter is a quarry, push that fighter up to one hex.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. Guard is pretty solid, and then if you also get a push, that's really good. Um,
Yeah, I think this is really good to counter like people trying to push your quarry off objective so they can deny you your absolute stillness. Like I know a lot of
yeah,
people like Quickening Greaves, and then Heated Instinct is another card, but Desperate Caution can just be another card that maybe at the very least, um, you can put a friendly fighter on guard so they can stay on an objective,
yeah,
but also maybe jump onto an objective or out of charge range. I think it's pretty solid, but it's a very purposefully designed card that will fit in only in decks that deliberately require it. If that makes sense.
yeah. I like it for the ones that are trying to be quarries on objectives because it allows that push, which sometimes they need for absolute stillness, and then the
And Lion Weight.
guard, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that is the gambits.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I feel like again, like one of the overarching themes of the last couple of releases has been like these are all fantastically great in limited scenarios.
Yeah,
You know, not all of
yeah,
them, but like Hunter's Helper is great on scything attacks. Um, and I
yeah.
really like more muscle.
Yep, more muscles, cool. I like Desperate Caution.
Yeah.
Um, Silence Descends is interesting. I need to like. It's one of those things where I don't think about how often are people in no one's territory. So I'll just have to think about that, I guess. Um, but yeah, I mean that's. I mean, in general, I think what we're running into is at the end of we're at the end of the season. There were 500 cards in this season, and then there are probably about the same in the previous season. Half of those are faction cards. The other half are universal. So we have, about 500, and then maybe 6 to 650 of, other card packs, and that's just a lot of cards. We only get to choose 10 or 20,
Yeah.
of each. I guess it's 32, but 10 ploys and then whatever.
10. Yeah.
Um, it's just a lot, and so like basically we're saying what are what is the 1% of cards that are that are needed for this deck. So there's just a lot of cards that it's hard to see how they make the cut with this many options. So, but I think some of these will. So
Yeah, I think in certain decks, like I can like if my opponent played Wedded Hunger against me and they were playing like a Wild Hunt or a Forest Riders, like I wouldn't be surprised, you know?
yeah,
I'd be like, "Oh, that's a great choice." Um, Conversely, like if someone is playing Seraphon Quarry or Dread Pageant Quarry, then Desperate Caution is a great card.
yeah.
If someone's playing Sepulchral Guard, I can see them playing Hunter's Helper because it makes the what's his face? What's the guy's name?
The Harvester.
This the Harvester. Yeah. You know, it makes him very scary. So,
Yeah, yeah. And as always, I think in Vanguard these are a little bit better because we don't have all of Darkchasm kind of holding it back.
yeah.
So, but yeah,
Um
guess we can go to the upgrades.
yeah, let's start with the upgrades then. We'll go to Soul Tooth Darts.
Yeah.
Um Range 3, 3 Fury, 1 damage with Ensnare. You can reroll 1 dice in the attack roll if the target has 1 or more move and or charge tokens.
And you get to be a hunter.
Yes, yeah. It comes with all Soul Tooth weapons. Yep.
Yeah. Um, I mean, this is actually a very, very accurate weapon, um, which I do like. The one damage I think makes it questionable in this current meta. Um, but man, like that's super accurate. They have a move token,
Yeah.
ensnare,
3
and
Fury
three
reroll with
fury.
Ensnare is pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I think it's good in that specific use case.
Yeah.
The range
I
can be
think
nice too.
the range is really nice because it can um, it can help like inspire fighters also, making
Yeah.
attack actions or doing things like that. So,
Yeah, that's true.
okay, next card is Silent Bracers. I think this is the final Silent Relic that we will see. Um,
I think we have one more.
oh, is there?
Yeah.
Is no? Oh yeah, Mask of the Silent People. Okay. Silent Bracers. This fighter is a quarry. If this fighter is a quarry, this fighter can move through blocked and occupied hexes, but must end their move in an empty hex. If this fighter's move action begins in no one's territory, this fighter has +2 move for the duration of that action. +1 move if this fighter has 2 or more silent relics.
Yeah.
What do you what do you think?
I think really the only effect that you can count on is the blocked and occupied, and I don't think that's worth an upgrade. So I think I would pass on this one in general.
Well said. Next card. Savage Hunger. This fighter is a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
If this fighter has 1 or more hunger counters, this fighter's range 1 attack actions have ensnare.
No, thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, the vampires are already hunters, and this is basically a Crimson Court card because it needs hunger. So I would just probably skip it. I think there's better options.
Yeah, agreed. Rampaging Killer is the next card. This fighter is a hunter and a quarry. This
Mm-hmm.
fighter's range 1 attack actions have scything. After each super action made by this fighter, deal 2 damage to this fighter.
I love this card. This is super cool.
It's a very high risk, high reward playstyle.
I want to make a Mighty Swing and this deck for like Godsworn Hunt and just
Mm.
throw people at stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe use that Gambit we talked about too. Uh, Hunter's Helper.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
just start
funny.
flinging
That's
things
funny.
around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean the 2 damage is a lot, but I think it's really good.
Yeah,
I mean, think
it's
about like
powerful.
Sake or Draknar or anybody like that. It's gonna die anyway. Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's pretty good.
I
And
dig it.
you get all the attacks before you take the damage too. It's not like some of the weapons and stuff we've seen before that maybe you could combo with Mighty Swing, something like that. But um, I think it's really cool.
Now let me ask you a question. So you charge,
Yeah.
that's a super action.
Right.
And then
After
a
the
scything
entire
attack
action.
is a super action. So you charge, you take 2 damage, or you make one big scything attack. That's two damage. So
Well, a charge into a scything attack is still one super action.
correct, correct.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
super action is
that's
just any action that is more than one action. Yeah.
correct. That's what I'm just explaining the
Okay.
two ways you take
Yeah.
damage. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Cool.
and I guess it is interesting is that you don't I guess you hmm. So if you make an attack action, you actually don't take the damage. If you just make
Correct.
a move. That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
it's
maybe there's
only
a
when you do
way
the super action.
yeah, maybe there's ways to like you put this on and then you push next to multiple fighters and you get to use scything without um no, that's still a super action. So
It's
yeah.
still a super
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That makes sense.
Now, what could be cool is you like play this card on a fighter, then you play Primal Lunge,
Mm.
and then you just kind of go a little whirlwind. That
Yeah.
could be fun.
Yeah. I think that this has a lot of power to it. So very
Yeah,
cool.
it's a good card.
You could also
Next
play it
one.
in a warband that already has a scything, and then you have like another scything fighter, like Sepulchral Guard, like suddenly the champion gets to have scything. Something like
Yeah, and
that.
it's interesting because the Sepulchre Guard wants, or the champion wants to die,
Yeah.
so he can come back even stronger.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
or this going on a Magor would be fun. This could
Yeah.
pretty deathly devastating on a Ravager as well. I mean, there's a lot of play there.
Yeah.
If you're planning on losing fighters, but your goal is to take out enemy fighters, then I think it's a solid option at the very least.
Yeah. Very cool card.
Yeah. The next one is Master Duelist. Action. Discard the primacy token. If you do, this fighter makes one range or range 2 attack action with +2 dice. If this fighter is taken out of action, discard the primacy token.
Yeah. Very interesting card. Um, it does take an action, which is so it's basically replacing a normal attack action. But you get +2 dice. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I think Commanding Stride makes this one way better for the range 2 big boys.
Yes.
Um,
I
but
don't mind it. Like if you're looking for accuracy and you're having a tough time, you stick this on there,
yeah.
and then you just make an attack with +2 dice. It's the same as an action. Um,
Yeah, and they can see it coming. They might be able to get away from you,
yeah.
and it doesn't work on a charge. So um, I like. I think the problem with it is that you have to have the primacy, and then you have to discard it.
Yeah.
That's kind of tough.
I also think like well you discard yeah so if you have the primacy token though you can discard it get the kill get the token back
Right. Yeah. If you're
so
if you're Moloch or Kanan, then you probably just get it right back.
yeah it's pretty solid
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
certain situations. The next one is Master Commander. Action: discard the primacy token. If you do, push each other surviving friendly fighter up to 1 hex. If this fighter is taken out of action, discard the primacy token. So pretty much make anyone Varklav.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a very powerful effect.
Yes.
I think there are absolutely times when this is worth an action, although actions are very expensive. Um, I think the challenge with this card is how do you get the primacy token? Um, so I think you have to build in some tricks to that if you're going to try to play this. But
Yeah.
um, for some kind of like objective holding deck, probably I think this could be worth it.
I agree. We talked about more muscle or proud runner, feigned strength even. I mean, like
Yeah,
this is pretty much making another Varklav, honestly. And like some warbands shouldn't have access to that, but like this will allow Grimwatch to like in one action score in the name of the king, temporary victory, hidden purpose, swift capture.
maybe.
Um, like
Yeah,
it's pretty solid.
yeah. I
So,
think one hex is better than or obviously not better than two like Varklav, but
right.
and it does require the glory for the upgrade, but yeah, I think it's worth considering in some sort of positioning decks, like for Gits or something. It seems really good because
Yeah.
you get to push so many guys. So
Yes. You can push 8 fighters, yeah, if they're all alive, assuming.
yeah, wow,
Though I think as a Gits player, you'd be hard pressed to have primacy. So I
maybe
suppose there
yeah,
is balance
yeah.
there.
I think you need the
So
cards. So
okay, now for the real last silent relic we'll ever see, Mask of the Silent People. This fighter is a quarry. If this fighter is a quarry, each enemy fighter is a quarry.
I guess we could have just skipped this one. It's not very
You,
good.
yeah, I don't. I feel like there's like a trick here to this card. Um, maybe like if you want to take cards that rely on you killing quarries, like
Yeah,
Triumphant Hunt is one, which like 3 glory. Score this in the end phase if like 3 enemy fighters are dead and one of them was a quarry. So I don't
yeah.
know. It could work.
It's just interesting that from a design perspective, from like for the as far as the lore goes, it seems like being a quarry should be a bad thing, but in the current game, it's really not. Like there's more benefit for being a quarry than there isn't, um, or than for not being one. So it's just a little weird, but yeah,
I don't disagree. I just think this is a card you take in a warband that wants to use cards that benefit attacking quarries.
yeah, that's true.
Like
Yeah,
victimize and stuff like that.
I guess it is nice. It is nice for that. So if you had a deck that you wanted to be a quarry and you wanted them to be a quarry, then it would be a good pick for that. So very niche.
Yeah. You might not even care if your fighter is a quarry. You just want the enemy to be a quarry, right? So
Yeah, maybe.
in some cases, though, I would assume in some matches that's pretty bad because you just give them a lot of benefits
I
or
think
maybe cards
that's
to
the
score.
problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, impressive bulk. -1 move to a minimum of 0, +1 wounds. This fighter is a quarry.
Yeah. I like this one a lot. I think for any warband that's trying to do the quarry hold objectives type stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I think in that case you don't mind that you lose a move. Um, I think in a lot of cases one wound is still worth losing a move anyway. And if it's also making you a quarry and that's scoring you um, absolute stillness or something, then I think that's great. So I like this one quite a bit. Um, I think I would take this one.
Yeah, for sure. Essentially, if you need quarries and you like Great Fortitude, this goes in.
Yeah.
So, pretty solid card and one that I don't think you mind the debuff because you're probably just sitting on an objective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next card, Experienced Eye. You can reroll 1 attack dice in each of this fighter's attack rolls for each instance of the quarry keyword on the target's fighter card and upgrades. This fighter is a hunter.
Yeah. I mean, even though I think It's sort of like this card knows that everyone's taking quarry, and then it's pretty good against that. But
Yeah.
there's just better options. So, but there's just better accuracy cards.
I think so. I think so there's two things. One, like it doesn't really specify like so I think this card should limit one reroll per one upgrade, but like technically like if someone has like a quarry upgrade where it says this fighter is a quarry, if this fighter is a quarry, blah blah blah, it's two rerolls. Like just rules as written. I'm not sure if that's rules as intended, so that's one thing I wanted to point out. Number two, I think you're
That's
absolutely
true.
correct.
Hmm.
I think you're absolutely correct in that. Like this isn't like unless like Quarry it becomes Quarry Mania. I'm not really sure if you need
Yeah.
the experience die. But I guess in order to assume that it'll be Quarry Mania or you're going into a meta or a tournament or event that's a lot of people playing Quarry, you would need a keen eye that has a lot of experience. So
See what
maybe
you did
it's
there.
yeah.
You have a
So I don't
bottomless
know.
appetite for those puns.
Hmm. I don't know if you have a bottomless appetite or you have. I have a bottomless
You have
appetite
a
for
bottomless appetite.
for puns. You do not. You have the
I
complete
do not.
opposite. But
Yeah.
speaking of bottomless appetite, last upgrade of the season.
Oh
When this
my.
fighter is activated, give this fighter one hunger counter. Then, if this fighter has a number of hunger counters equal to or greater than their wound characteristic, deal one damage to this fighter.
Nope.
Mm, so I can see you wanting to like play this on the Crimson Court early and get like technically two hunger around at minimum. But then after that, you just probably want to chill out and not activate that fighter. Which
Yeah.
maybe you don't care to activate the fighter that's going to be tanking all your hunger, but I don't know. I'm trying to make this sound less worse than it actually is, but it's not a good card, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. And that is it
Okay.
for upgrades.
Okay. Well, which one was your
They're
favorite?
done. um, Definitely rampaging killer. From both like a design and a like playability perspective. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool one. I like Master Commander. I just
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
in certain situations it's going to be insane.
yeah. I also like impressive bulk. It's a cool design.
Yes.
It's like a massive bulk, but not quite as massive.
Yeah. Yeah. The other ones are like all good in their own way or not.
Yeah.
Um, Master Duelist is one I'm interested in. I just don't know if it makes the cut. Probably doesn't actually.
I think that because it has to discard the primacy token, it probably doesn't. If that wasn't in there, I think maybe you would see it as an accuracy option. But because it
Yeah.
only works on attack actions, or it effectively only works on attack actions, um, that's kind of limited. And then you also have to have primacy. So I don't know. I think you might still consider it on the big boys.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Well, I guess that's it. We just completed Dire Chasm. At least the core season of Dire Chasm.
yeah, that is quite a few cards. I think it's going to take a little bit to soak in, um, you know, exactly what it all means, but and what the best builds are and stuff. But it's cool that we have the whole set. I need to take another look at primacy and hunger and hunter quarry and see. I think we kind of know the way things are, but maybe there's some synergies that we've you know that haven't been apparent yet.
Yeah. I want to say I want to give a quick shout out to Nick. He's a patron, and he in our group chat earlier he goes, "I just realized that 10 more bands, two universal card expansions, and four additional boards came out before we got a FAR or a FAQ."
Yeah. That's pretty incredible.
Insane.
Yeah. And
Insane.
you know, I guess really it's not like the game is in a completely unbalanced place. It just sure would be better with a
Yeah,
forward too.
I think a lot of like Essentials pack really helped
Yeah.
like bring a lot of older warbands back into the fray.
Yeah.
So that was really important. Like I think you can plan for Mollog and Crushes. Um, I
Right.
feel like there is a bit of a rock paper scissors element to this game right now. Um,
Yeah.
but
I
at the
mean,
same time,
if we could just have hit, you know, 5 cards over the last year, the game would be in a completely different spot. Um, it's just, but I don't know. Overall, I think this is a pretty good season. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting. We'll have to see how you know it all shakes out. Um, I guess we have the patron questions.
yeah, we've got a bunch, so
Yeah, we do.
let's power through it. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so the first one's from Val. At the end of every season, in the growing pool of universal cards that comes with it, we see older warbands and warbands which have to rely on universals having a temporary comeback. Do you see any of these warbands coming back towards the end of the season? What do you think?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think the more cards in the pool, obviously, the more opportunities for any warband to find some sort of relevance and maybe embrace older proven strategies or try new ones. I think with this particular expansion, um, I don't know if it like innovates much. Like I think the rich get richer and the rest people stay the same. Like if so, I'm not really sure. I think the essentials pack. You know, it's funny we just talked about this literally seconds ago. Is probably the one thing that kind of helps the older warbands come back. And I will say that older warbands tend to do really well when there's no far because
Hmm.
they can benefit from the powerful cards and can offset the fact that maybe they don't have access to powerful cards, but when the powerful cards get restricted, you know, some of the more relevant or recent warbands, um, they stay relevant because they have good faction cards. But then some of the older warbands who only have literally one or two good faction cards go back to struggling. So, in a way, I think Dire Chasm has been great for older warbands like the Wormspat or Eyes of the Nine, even Magor's Fiends, Spideclaw Swarm, because there have literally been no limitations. Just play whatever you want, and it's been pretty fruitful.
Yeah, that's true. That may be part of why, like, I think the B tier is pretty wide right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of stuff is playable against a lot of stuff. It's just at the very top that there's, you know, I would say a pretty definite, you know, 2 or 3 up there. Um, cool. So the next one, go ahead and read that.
Yeah, sure. This is by Ceres. If you had to donate your bones to one of the Sepulchral Guard or Canaan's Reapers, who would you donate to?
Mm. I think I would want to be. I don't know. Maybe I'd want to be one of the Reaper's weapons or something.
Yeah, so like if you, I feel like if you I donated my bones to the Sepulchral Guard, they're just not gonna do anything with them.
I guess you would have to be one of the Sepulchral Guard. 'Cause they're
Oh,
just
is that what
people
the
that are coming
question
back,
is?
right?
Like, do I want to just be a mindless skeleton controlled by the warden? Or do I want to have a semblance of my personality and potentially be remade out of my own organic matter?
Mm.
I don't know if there's much of a, a decision there. I think worst case scenario, like the Reapers will use my organic matter to make more of them. Um, so in a way, probably the Reapers.
Yeah. All right. Interesting question. The next one is from Matt. I found there's three specific styles of decks right now: Mollog and Crushes, those that strongly tech to counter Mollog and Crushes, and lastly, decks that just play their game plan. With this, there's a pretty strong rock, paper, scissors relationship where tech beats Crushes, game plan beats tech, and Crushes beats everything else, and tech some of the time. I also feel that due to this new triangle, matchups in events are even more important than they've ever been. Do you agree? Do you feel the old aggro objective control triangle has been replaced by this? My experience has been trying to tech into Mollig and Crushes and drawing other matchups and being inefficient. But with the current strength of those warbands, I find it hard not to tech for it. What's your take on finding the confidence to play your plan and hope that you don't hit those matchups?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's.
really, really well thought out and good question. Um, so I think the first question is, do you agree? I do agree that right now it's like Mollog and Crushes. You could maybe include Harrows into that category, um, maybe not, and then everyone else kind of either trying to beat them or do their own thing and hope to avoid them. Um, in terms of like the old aggro objective control triangle, I feel like that was replaced in Beastgrave. It's been a while, and while there are like natural weaknesses and strengths to each game plan, especially when they match up against one another, I feel like I feel like Beastgrave warbands in particular have like broken that mold quite significantly because Grimwatch, like it didn't matter who they faced in the height of their power, they just beat everybody.
Hmm.
Same with Thorns of the Briar Queen at the time, um, Hrothgorn at the time, Morgoth's Crushes, now, Mollog now. Um, so I think there's been a rise of significant faction imbalance that has led to these warbands just dominating in a majority of scenarios. So I actually think the triangle has been broken for quite some time. Um,
Yeah.
in trying to tech into Mollog and Crushes, and do you want to chime in at any point? I'm just going to keep going unless you want to build upon anything I've said. There's multiple questions in here, so
No, go keep going.
okay, cool, cool. Um, in trying to tech into Mollog Crushes and drawing other matchups, it does feel inefficient, 100%. But I think there are ways to mitigate that. Like if your tech is like combo stuff, then in some cases, whether you're trying to get winded online or just combo someone to death, I think that can be there's like less risk there because either way, like you're tooling up a fighter to kill other fighters or place charge tokens. Um, if it's nets, I don't think nets are bad. Nets can help zone out an enemy fighter. If we go past that, which I know some people are, then yeah, I think, and that's the beautiful nature about this game is that you have to build a deck that beats the meta but beats also the random stuff you'll see. And some warbands, can rely on their power level to power through and bruise through matchups. Um, so I think with the current strength of Crushes and Mollog, I agree it is hard not to tech for it. I think you should tech for it because they're quite popular. But I also think you shouldn't tech to the point where it makes your deck inefficient. And so what does that mean? Well, I think every deck has Duel of Wits, so you're going to have a little bit of Dross energy. So then I think you maybe take one or two, maybe three cards at max that help you in that matchup, and then you either hope you draw them early or hard mulligan for them when you get in those games. But um, I wouldn't really do much more than that because, for example, if you run into like I don't know, a Worm Spat or an Eyes of the Nine, that can hurt you in those situations. So I guess that's my thoughts on that concept as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think the third tier of that being game plan is interesting because I guess what that sort of means, because I think Crushes and Molag are probably doing their game plan too. So what that means
Right.
is they just have the best game plan, and then people might be able to tech against them. And we have seen that before. I don't know if that in itself is a new concept. I think the triangle. I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we've had aggro and control for at least a full season. I don't think Beastgrave had aggro and control and objectives in the way that we were traditionally used to in the first two seasons. Um, like the objective play was very different. Control. I guess maybe we had some control. We barely had aggro in Beastgrave. So, and now it's like something else entirely where everything is like heavy into flex. So, um, so yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that if you took if you take Mulligan crushes out of the meta, um, then then I think there's a pretty good parity between a lot of I would say maybe about a third of the war bands are probably reasonably
Yeah.
pair well against each other, um, and then so I unfortunately I think we just haven't had any balancing in about a year, so or 6 months, which is about a year of this game. So um,
In terms of releases, it's a year for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's unfortunate, but I think Matt's spot on with his breakdown of what the meta is like right now. And
Yeah,
we've
for
had new
sure.
cards that tweak this a little bit, but um, I don't think they really get around it because I think the reasons why Crushes and Monologue are really good almost don't have it that much to do with um, cards here and there. It's more Crushes are impossible to kill, um, and Monologue is also impossible to kill. And those are like their weaknesses is you have to kill them. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
My last point I would say is that like if you removed or significantly hampered Malak crushes and Harrows in the
yeah,
meta, you would have an amazing meta. Um,
yeah. That's true. I actually think Harrows are probably easier to deal with. If you know those are number one, I think you can tech against them a little bit better than you can the
sure.
other two.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay. Well, next question.
yep.
This is by Val. If you have a game plan with your warband, but in a tournament, you happen to run into a matchup in which your game plan just has a low probability to work, what do you do? Of course, you might tell me to make a reliable deck that avoids that situation entirely. But with the increasing number of warbands and cards, I feel like that is getting less and less possible.
Yeah, that's a good question. To me, I think this kind of goes back to the old conversation of like who's the beatdown. And I guess in this sort of situation, you're sort of, it sounds like the other person is probably going to be the winner by default, unless you make something happen. Um, so I think that's sort of what you need to do. But there can be other situations where, and I think this was sort of a follow up question to Val was asking us in a couple episodes ago about um, if you're playing orcs into the creepers and charging in just inspires them, like, what do you do? Um, and I think it can be very matchup dependent, but I think you just have to figure out whether or not you can stall out the other player, um, or if they if you can if both of you stall, who wins? So like in the creeper orc situation, um, if they need to come, if they need to inspire to win and score a bunch of stuff by attacking you and charging and stuff, like maybe you just stall them out and you kind of play more carefully, more cagily, like almost like a Ripa deck would, and you kind of draw some cards and maybe change out an objective, and then when you do go in, hopefully you score something, and then you set up for the next round. Um, but I think it can be very matchup dependent. Um, so it just depends what you're playing. And of course you do want to have a reliable deck that avoids too many bad matchups, and then you should have a specific plan for when you do run into the matchups that you don't like. Um, but that is the challenge, and he is right that as more warbands come out, it does get harder.
Yeah, I think I really I would have answered the question pretty similar in terms of the beatdown, right? Like, if you know that your opponent is just gonna win if you don't do something that is unique to the circumstances, then I think you have to rely on more of the less reliable aspects of this game, which can come down to, you know, if you're not the beatdown, become the beatdown. You know, like the best way to stop an opponent from scoring is stopping their fighters from being able to score, and the best way to do that is to kill them, right? So maybe hoping that your fighters survive on some defense, but then they do some damage on offense. Maybe you draw the right cards early to make those situations line up in your favor as best as you can. I think there's a lot of ways in which you can turn a seemingly unwinnable matchup into one that can be competitive. Ultimately, it still might not work out in your favor, but you know, as long as you had a good game or you tried to make a good game and you tried to execute, um, I think you'd be happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is an interesting one from Wathlab. What is the most famous Underworld or Warhammer Underworlds game?
That this is an interesting question. Um, I don't know if there's ever been like one game that's like equally famous for everyone. I think everyone is gonna have their own famous game. I think there's some big games that happened lately, or at least since we've all been doing the online meta.
Yeah.
Um, do you? I guess for me, I mean, do you have one that you think supersedes all in terms of like it is the
Hmm.
most famous?
The one that comes to mind, I don't know how famous it is, but it's one of my, I think it's one of the biggest moments was the when uh, Ollie and Tom were in like the tiebreaker round of the one online event, and Ollie had
Yeah,
like a black hunger explosion that killed like three people.
yeah.
And that basically won the game. I feel like that one's fairly well known. Um,
That was an
uh,
interesting game because it shouldn't like they technically shouldn't have played 4 games.
yeah.
They should have just like followed the tiebreaker rules, and
Yeah.
then I think ultimately maybe I don't mean depends on how well Ollie would have rolled, but I think Tommy had the better board state at that time. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is one. I think the one that comes to mind to me is like Bryce, who was Giblin's like buddy.
Hmm.
He won. It was like the first Grand Clash I watched live. I think it
Mm.
was the first time Games Workshop ever streamed it, and he won against Magors in the final, and he
Yeah.
played like frozen in time, um, and like zoned out the opponent's Magor, and then just Stormsire went off, as he does.
Yeah, I like the question. I think that there should be more famous Underworlds games. um, so hopefully, as things pick up, and hopefully more of them are recorded and put out there, and because I mean, I know a lot of the tournament games that have happened and we've played in and haven't, weren't recorded. So it's hard to
Yeah, I
it's
mean
hard to
like
have them be too famous.
yeah, my most famous game for myself is probably Adepticon.
Or
Like I'll
Gen
never
Con.
forget that
Actually,
when
honestly, the Reavers winning Gen Con might be pretty famous. I don't know if it's the game in particular, but um, the fact that they
yeah, but
won.
Gen Con was like kind of a shit show. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, shout out to Jimmy and Reavers, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was an interesting event as a whole, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead and do the next one.
sure. This is from Frye. Do you feel that Vanguard is more or less interesting with essentials included? I think it's more interesting without, as there are just too many good cards that are auto includes, which reduces the likelihood of you needing to solve problems, i.e., range, 2 damage, accuracy, etc. However, there was a lot of good support for holding objective warbands in essential. What makes that playstyle a bit harder to play? Which makes that playstyle a bit harder to play without it.
Yeah.
What
Hmm.
do you think?
Um, I mean, I don't know if there's really a right answer here. I think that you could play it without the essentials, and that may be more interesting for some more bands. I don't think it hurts anything to play with the essentials. Um, so I guess it's just kind of up to you and your group. Um, my tendency would probably be to include it, just because that's the more normal, and it would let people play with their cards. But I see his point that it does make some certain choices easier. Like even in championship, there's probably like four essential cards I'm just gonna put in pretty much every deck. So, and the whole point of Vanguard is that you play other cards, I guess. So
Yeah, I mean, um, I think Vanguard is designed for like newer players.
hmm
And so like while I think it might be fun for, players who've played the game for a while to like want to like try to flex their deck building skills or composition in Vanguard, I think it's important to remember that like the essentials are there to help players ease into the competitive aspects of this game. And
yeah,
I also do think that, you know, Vanguard, it makes it more interesting because there are some warbands that are just really good in terms of their faction kit and some that aren't. And like for example, like if you really like Ravagers, um, or rather even Soulraid, the
yeah,
essentials really help you overcome some of that faction nuance and weaknesses. So, and especially if you do Vanguard Plus, right, which is warbands, any warband, um, as well.
right,
So,
yeah,
which
yeah.
Vanguard Plus is an unofficial format, but uh,
It's a good name for it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, good question. The next one is from Dylan Paul. What are your thoughts on where gaining primacy should fall in the after an activation sequence? Current order is inspiration, reactions, surges, so it has to be somewhere in there. Without an FAQ, there's really weird card interactions and no clear way of working out what should happen. Interested in your thoughts. And then the secondary question is, what is the best weapon for Daco to help him contribute to the damage output of the warband in scenarios where his tracking ability won't come into play? I'd like to include a weapon to give him more to do, but I'm torn on which one. So what do you think about the primacy thing? I kind of mentioned this earlier.
So I think I'm going to let you answer this first part because I think
Yeah.
we've been in a lot of conversations, and it's interesting. Like there were you and Gerard also like agree and disagree in the conversations we've had surrounding it. So I think you should answer this one just because like I haven't put as much thought into it as you and maybe he has.
Yeah. Um, so I would say that I guess I would say that if it was up to me and I just got to put it wherever I wanted, I would say it's after inspiration. Um, or maybe just before. I might actually say it's before. Um, what I would say is important is that it's definitely not after searches. There's just almost no way that that's possible. And as far as I know, that's where the rules problems would come into play. I don't know if it really matters. I'm trying to think of any like mechanical problems you run into if it's before inspiration or after inspiration or before reactions. Um, I sort of don't think it should be after reactions because then you get to do like reaction attacks and then you know, but then like let's say you do a reaction attack, you get a kill. That kill doesn't get you primacy because you've already missed the activation. So it wouldn't make to me it would make sense if it's after inspiration or before inspiration. Um, but I don't think it really matters as long as you're not saying that it's after reactions or after surges. So that's what I would say. That would be my ruling if I was running a tournament and um, you know
I think that makes sense. For the Daco question, I think
yeah
any spear is pretty okay. I mean, even Amberboard, or sorry, even the Silent Sword is not bad. Um,
yep
because you probably put him furthest back if you're not going to be able to, you know, do the tracking. Um, sorry, not the tracking, the primacy gain by holding an objective in enemy territory.
yeah
So That could be interesting, but I think any spear. I've been really messing around with larval lance lately, and while it does not do well early game, I think round two onwards it's great.
Hmm,
Um, but
that's
if you
cool.
want something more reliable than Soul Tooth Spear or not none of the Amberbone weapons, right? Because they go away. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with weapons and Daco.
Yeah, I think I like the spears. Like to me, that's like the default. And then if you have a good reason to take something else, I mean, um, that works too. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
next
Very
question is
last
by
one.
Bry D. I'm more of an aggro player, but I want to try playing a bit of objective play. Would you run two supremacies in one deck? I'm thinking not. Good chance of bricking your hand. How many hold two, hold three objective type cards would you run in a deck? Both Surge and End Phase. I'm building a deck for the latest Stormcast, if that makes a difference.
Mm. Yeah, the castigators.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I think it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that they are. I think it can be challenging for them to control more than two objectives. I would say. I think the dog is pretty good at holding one in the back, and then the other three can attempt to hold at least one more. Um, Ideally, two more, and then you have a little bit of redundancy there. Um, I wouldn't take two supremacies probably for anyone in the current meta. Mischievous Spirits shuts it down too hard, and so does like Distraction or Restless Prize. That kind of thing is recoverable, I would say, but Mischievous Spirits a lot of the time is not. So I think two supremacies would be way too hard. I think one is probably too hard right now. It's possible that that would change in the future, but this current meta I just don't think is friendly for holding three. And I think there's plenty of ways to hold two um, and get a lot of glory. Um, how many would you take? I would take Swift Capture in a lot of objective decks. I think that particularly if you have any kind of speed, you can usually make it work. Hidden Purpose, obviously, I think. I think you could consider Temporary Victory, particularly if you're very fast, because then you can, temporarily hold three, and that can be okay. But it wouldn't be an automatic choice for me. And then I would take Dominant Position. I would consider Path to Victory if you have a lot of fighters and can probably hold two, and you're sort of aggro and think you can kill something. And then I think the Quarry build with Absolute Stillness and um, what's the other one called?
Line weight.
Lion Weight. I think that's worth thinking about too. If you probably instead of Path to Victory, because I think if you take the Quarry upgrades, you're not going to have the damage needed to kill things reliably. So I think you basically take Hidden Purpose with Capture, Dominant Position. I'd probably take Underdog too in an objective deck. And then I would either take Path to Victory and Aggro, or I would take Quarry. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah. So no to any supremacies. Period. Not in this
Yeah.
meta. Um,
And for the Castigators, I do like their surge for holding um, one of those objectives of a certain number. I think it's like one and two they can do, or one, two, and three they can do,
it's
something
like
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
They have some good surges. I would say that if you really want to make castigators work, um, then yeah, I think you want to lean into that quarry line weight absolute stillness stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I think you have to take a lot of pushes, um, especially enemy pushes, um, and defensive upgrades for sure. I really don't think you should be playing castigators if you want to try objective play. I think you should maybe try something that's more forgiving and then work your way up to a harder task. But I guess if you want to jump straight into the deep end, this could be one of those ways to do it. But yeah, swift capture, dominant position, um, hidden purpose, lion weight, absolute stillness. Um,
Yeah.
those are all great starting points, I think.
Yeah. And I think they do objective flex okay, where you could just take crucial objective, swift capture, hidden purpose, and then some other more aggressive things with dominant position. So that's what I currently have. Oh, they also have a one glory card for holding two objectives. I think that's worth thinking about. I have that one in my deck from back when they came out. So I don't think we've really got too many better options in the meantime, but they might be able to do the surge for having somebody with three objectives or upgrades on an objective. So I guess you could think about that too.
Yeah. To me, I just don't see them being. I think they're one of
Yeah,
those warbands where like it's great to teach a player how to function,
right.
but I don't think you're gonna get much mileage out of them competitively.
Yeah.
Not right now.
The next one is from Hussman. Question: Is the crab a good boy or the best boy? And then he has some real questions. What are some strategies with the fish? How do you see the fish helping the warband? Do you think that losing the leader of this warband is as devastating as losing the warden or Scritch?
Yeah,
Interesting.
these are great questions. Um, I guess the crab is the best boy
Nah, he's a good boy.
because the internet You think he's a good boy? Who's better? Who's more bestier than the crab?
I mean, you know what? You
Oh,
know
the
what I
fish.
think. You
The
know what I
fish.
think.
The
Yeah,
spine fish.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's fair. But you're biased though.
yeah.
You know. Yeah. But
High
you're not hiding
bias.
it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Strategies for the fish. I think the fish is pretty decent. Um, I think once you get the fish online, supporting attacks make your fighters significantly more accurate. I think almost every single fighter is hitting on 3 dice, if not inspire into 3 dice in some situations. So it's pretty cool. Um, I think the fish can be great for, as we mentioned in the previous episode, gambit delivery. So whether it's poisons or other cards like push. If like for example like hypnotic buzz requires a range 3 limitation, but your fish is a friendly fighter, so you can use it from the fish instead. So I think there's some cool uses there that are quite technical. Um, but I think that's how the fish works and how it helps the warband. Um, do I think losing the leader of this warband is as devastating as losing the warden or Scritch? It's not as devastating as losing the warden. I would put it more akin to it's as devastating as losing like Crackmara or Scritch, where it's like, crap, I just
Skaith is what
lost.
comes to mind for me.
Yeah, Skaith is another great example where it's like, crap, I lost my best fighter. And I think actually that's a more apt example, like the Duke or Skaith, because with the leader goes down, like yeah, Tamael becomes more of a risky play, but who knows if you bring him back more than once or twice, anyways.
Yeah.
But I think Tamael, Firen are good fighters. They can do a lot of damage, and the crab, if it's alive, can be pretty tanky and can be a surprise hit, kind of like Lagain and Grawl, our last-ditch efforts by Godsworn Hunt and Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at.
I like the fish. I don't think it's that complicated, honestly. I think what you do is the first time you place him down, he is going to be next to somebody that's already charged, and then you just target that person. So I think you just try to set that up. Like the enemy charges you, you put it down next to them, then you put the fish down to them, and then you just attack. And then the third option that you have to put him down, I think you just put him down somewhere to set up for the second round, and then the fourth time, and then the fourth option you put him down to set that up, and then you just keep doing that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Having not played it yet, I think that it's probably not that complex to figure out. Maybe what's complex is putting it somewhere where your opponent can't just stand on it and deny you. I don't know how much you care about that really, because then you just put it somewhere else and then put it down again. But they do have that option. So, but I
Yeah,
think the supports are great.
you can even start the fish in your territory if you know you're gonna lose
Yeah,
the numbers game, and have like a defensive support off the bat too, which can be pretty, uh, I guess,
Yeah.
beneficial in some situations, especially if
Yeah.
you're like Furin or yeah, I think Furin is the only one, and Duinclaw for sure.
Yeah, and it's too bad, I guess, that the fish can't actually move or anything, but you can push it around too, so that's something to keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. And yeah, I agree that
Next
it's
question.
you don't want to lose the
Oh,
leader,
sorry. Go
but
ahead.
it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
exactly, exactly. Next question is by Fryi again. Do you think the community is bad at judging warbands and/or cards where the power level is not as obvious in raw stats like crushes? I find the Underworlds community is up there with MTG, Magic the Gathering, in terms of writing off playstyles and cards without consideration of how they're actually played and what decks they can build as a result of their faction rules slash specific cards.
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I think this one's tricky. I mean, for one, it's not like the entire community has the same opinion about everything anyway. You know, if one
True.
warband comes out, there could be a few people that want to talk trash about it, and then another warband comes out. It could be complete other people that don't like it. So I don't want to be too generalist um, about anything. I would also say that in general, the community is probably generally right that certain things are weaker and other things are stronger, and it just depends on the perspective that you're coming at it. If every time a warband comes out, you want it to be the best warband that's ever been made, I think you're probably going to be disappointed. And if that was the case, then I think people will be mad about power creep. So I don't know. I don't really know if there's a right. I don't. I think GW loses either way. Um, so,
Yes.
um, but and I don't know. I mean, it just depends what you want from the game. If what you want to do is win a tournament and a new warband comes out and it doesn't look like you can win a tournament with them, I can understand being disappointed. If what you want is to just try the game in a new way that you haven't before with a new warband, then that's sort of what I'm after a lot of the time. Um, I just don't mind as much, and I look at it as like I'm interested to try to make these guys work. Um, and whereas like when Crushes came out, I'm not really interested in trying to make them work because it seems kind of easy. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, but I'm sure there were other people that thought, this is great. Now I can play this and win a bunch of stuff. So, um, I don't know. I don't want to get too hard. I don't want to bash either side too hard. But I think people probably like to jump to conclusions and give hot takes and things, and I think we do that too. So
Yeah, I would agree, right? So I think the one thing that you brought out, pointed out, was like when a new warband comes out, XYZ. I think that's a really important concept because like this is a warband with or a game with almost 40 warbands now, right?
I know it's crazy.
And it's going to keep growing. And so I think the idea is like there's a warband for everything. And so if you want to just play a binary warband that does XYZ and they all kind of perform similarly, then you can. Um, and that's kind of what Shadespire did.
Yeah,
And that kind of got stale pretty quickly, I think. And then as Nightvolt and Beastgrave and then eventually Direchasm have come out, we've seen more variance in the way that some warbands play. And I think that's important because it's like it's like playing the same game over and again. It can get tiring and you want something refreshing. And so there might be some warbands that are, yes, more likely to win events or win games, but that doesn't mean that the ones who aren't as likely are bad. It just means that they offer a different experience to you. So if you really want to, if you really have a favorite, that's awesome. It doesn't matter if they're not as meta. You can make them meta. Um, Conversely, if you want something that like forces you to make the correct decision every activation, and if you mess up, then it's on you and you lose, then you can find a warband that does that too. And I think that's the most rewarding aspect of this game is that there's literally a warband for everything. Whether you want to play or you want to just try to win.
yeah,
Secondly, I do feel like the community has become a little bit more toxic as of late. I don't know if it's because everyone's at home or the release schedule is so
yeah,
sudden and there's maybe some obvious balance issues in some aspects. But I would say that like for the most part on the Discords, like people are more level-headed.
Yeah.
Um, and so I try to spend most of my efforts on Discord when I'm reading and responding in conversation. I think Facebook is a crapshoot because I think a lot of people are in a lot of groups on Facebook and can comment on whatever they want to. But I think a Discord is a more deliberate choice to be active in a conversation and in a community. I'm not going to call anyone out or say anything in particular, but I will say that it's important to give every warband a fair shot. And I think there are some hot takes you can make, and I think hot takes create conversation and they help create content and they are relevant or bring you into relevance, whatever. But I also think it's important to not bash on any warband, especially upon their release, because the whole point is to grow the game and keep consuming the product so that there's more of it. And that's not to say why I'm defending the Soulraid. If you've read the written review or listened to our podcast, the last episode, like we both legitimately think there's some game there. And it's not obvious, it's kind of hard. But if you can figure it out, I think you'll impress yourself and other people and, you know, um, improve as a player. Because it's really easy to pick up crushes or Mollog and do really well with them. I don't think anyone denies that. I don't even think the players who win with those warbands deny that. I think it's really hard to pick up a warband like Soulraid or Wormspat or Eyes of the Nine and do really well with them. Or
Yeah.
Reavers. We talked about Gen Con earlier. Or Reavers. And that's what like makes things memorable for the community and for yourself. So something to
Yeah.
consider at the risk of sounding patronizing. I just think let's just be positive. We're all on the same team and we all like the game.
Yeah.
So, like if it's 6 months later and they still are struggling, then yeah, then maybe you can say they suck. But before
Yeah.
their
Although,
release, I don't think that's fair.
yeah, I mean, I guess we would hope that there would be more FARs, and they're nerfing the strong stuff to the point where this bead level. I mean, I guess it depends what you want too. I like it when a warband comes out and I'm like, this is decent, and it doesn't seem OP to me, but I think it can win some games, and like that's what I want. And then I
Hmm.
want them to nerf the good stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
Like if you're
I
gonna go try to
understand.
win a yeah, if you're gonna go try to win a Grand Clash, I don't think you'll take Soul Raid. But I mean you might, and I respect you
I
if
mean,
you
people
do,
take all
especially
kinds of stuff because they enjoy it.
yeah. Yeah, like yeah. There's still people playing Guardians. Like
I know.
hell yeah. So, anyways, next question.
Yeah. So the last one is Val sent in a series of questions. So I thought the best way to do this would be I'm just going to read them to you very quickly, and you have to answer them very quickly.
Oh God. Okay.
There's like 8 of them.
Nice.
So these are some rapid fire questions. Watch out when you touch your mic; it kind of like garbles it.
Oh, okay.
Um, so the first one is: Are the Soul Raid more than just a meme warband?
No.
Is
No, sorry. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Yes, there are
that
more
that
than
was
just a
that
meme.
was your gut
Nope.
reaction?
No. I misheard the question.
is the,
Yes, the Soul Raid are more than just a meme warband.
All right. Next one. Is the Mad Mob broken with primacy and all the extra attacks they can get with it?
No.
Is the next season starting already in September?
I would assume so.
Would that be the right time to rotate all warbands before Direcast for balance reasons?
No.
I don't know. I wonder what he means by all warbands. Um, are we ever going to get a FAR again mid-season or just once at the beginning of each season?
I hope that we go back to the regularly scheduled far list schedule, which was often throughout the season, but I think because of COVID and some internal changes within Games Workshop, I think there's been a delay.
All right. The next one is: Does GW still care?
I would hope so,
Why does the Monza Discord icon show Thundering now?
because I feel like it.
Fair enough. That is it.
Okay. Kind of stressful, huh?
Yeah, that's fun.
Wow, look at that.
That is it for
Um,
our questions and our Dire Chasm card review. We did it.
we did it. We did it. I wonder what Val means by all warbands.
Yeah,
before
yeah,
Diarchasm. Like everything before the first three seasons, you just wipe them. Relic only.
that would be a
That'd be
lot.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
That then just play Vanguard, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think Diarchasm only Vanguard at this point seems pretty interesting to me. Um,
yeah,
because that's a lot of cards, like 500 cards, or like 250 cards, and like there's some good ones in there and stuff. But and there's no crushes or mold. So
yeah. I think what would be fun is if we did like an online event, like
yeah.
a Vanguard format, and then like excluded some warbands from the pool, but then kind of made it open to like everything else. So you can like purposely like have some of the older warbands or the stronger warbands not in the
Oh yeah,
format.
yeah, yeah.
So
That'd be interesting. Yeah,
okay, well, I think that does it for me.
yeah. I think so. I'll go ahead and read us out. Once again, thank you to our patron supporters. If you'd like to join our current patrons, you can do so at patreon.com/path to glory. You can find all of our blog content on pathtoglorypodcast.com. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, let us know on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord at Path to Glory Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. As always, thanks for listening, and we wish you the best of luck on your path to glory.
I really hope my mic didn't sound that bad.
I'm hoping that too. I'm definitely hoping that too.